All right. And so thank you everyone for joining the South Fulton Coalition. Again, I apologize for our late start. I accidentally sent the wrong link to the candidate. So she is here now. So we will get started with our moderator, Miss Tamika Leverett. Miss Leverett, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashard, for giving me the opportunity to be a moderator this evening. I truly appreciate it. I want to just tell everyone who may not know me a little bit about myself, and hopefully that helps with me being a moderator tonight. My name is Tamika Leverett. I am a resident of the City of South Fulton, but not this district. I'm from another district. Um, this request was the South Fulton Coalition to participate, but they did not give me any questions or ask me to tell them or the moderator any questions. So keep in mind, everyone, that they are answering these questions off the cuff. I'm trying to be neutral, not personal. I've already said I have some questions I'll ask, and then I'll take questions from the audience. Before we get started, please let everyone know who you are and why you're running for this position.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. I am Connie Robinson, and I am running for this position because I believe that we need change in our city government so that we can have a fresh start and move in the direction that the people would like for us to move in. Just to give you a little bit about my background, is that okay to do that now? Okay, so just to give you a little bit about my background, I am a mother, I am a grandmother, I am a homeowner and a servant leader. I have almost 4 decades in government. I have in civilian service specifically, with a background in strategic planning, policy, and governance. This experience has provided me with a unique vantage point into the workings of government and the challenges faced by communities across the nation. Is that a thing for me?
No, that's everybody coming in.
Okay. So one of my most memorable one of my most memorable career positions was working with the Office of Treasury Inspector General and the Congressional General Accountability Office. I spearheaded office teams to assess program evaluations and improvements for inefficiencies. That's something that I think that will definitely be a plus with me as your council member. My collaboration and leadership has won congressional recognition. This experience formed the bedrock of my transition from public office to full-time civic involvement when I retired from the government in 2018. That's when I became a full-time community advocate. I am an avid volunteer. I serve on several boards, HOAs, the Cliftondale Community Group, a member of the Citizens Police Academy. I'm enrolled in the South Fulton Citizens Academy. I'm not sorry, not the South Fulton, but the Fulton County Citizens Academy, as well as established a grassroots organization of HOA communities across this city. And that's just to name a few. I'll get into some more things as we continue this conversation through the night. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that introduction of yourself. And so because you mentioned it, I'll start with one of my questions. The 2025 Strategic Comprehensive Plan outlines critical priorities, innovative strategies, and measurable objectives to drive sustainable growth, economic development, and community engagement. What will be your focus during the next 4 years?
So definitely infrastructure, because we're continuing to bring development, but we're not expanding our infrastructure at a rate that we should be. So that is definitely something that I plan to focus on during my term in office.
All right. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about departments, although they don't directly report to you and they report to the city manager who is over them. There's still a couple of questions that I want to ask you. Parks and Recreation have to provide support and overtime to every event within the city. If Park and Recreations do not provide these services, what department should or should not provide these services? For example, would you create like a community affairs department, or do you think Parks and Rec should still handle it, or should it be a event department? Like what do you think we should do about all these events and the staff?
Thank you for that question. I really think we need to reduce the events. I think that Parks and Recs should continue to maybe host the events, and we need to pull the events from our city council members. We have over 300 events this year, and some more was recently added at the last council meeting. And I think that's ridiculous, where the city manager actually put a moratorium on events for Parks and Recs because of the double work and what all you just expressed in terms of overworking them to try to accommodate all of these events that are on the calendar. I think it's overkill, not just for the staff, but also for the people. It's hard trying to juggle and attend all of these events because there's so many on the calendar. I think if we leave it to the departments to do their jobs and reduce the number of events that are being held throughout our calendar, I think they can do a better job of serving the community, and the council can focus on what their mission is the governance. Thank you.
All right. From a human resources perspective, what do you believe to be the reasons for staff turnover? And what specific activity would you recommend giving guidance to the city manager to address this issue?
Okay, that's a two-part question. Could you ask the first part again?
What do you believe to be the reasons for staff turnover?
So just based on some of when I say the hearings that I have heard from people that work for the city, it's the leadership. It is the council members overstepping their boundaries and giving directions to the employees. It's the employees not having a direct chain of command that they are supposed to be reporting to, because there are so many leaders trying to give them direction. So if we can structure our teams the way that they should be, with their direct line of direct reports, who reports to whom, and not have all of these leaders trying to give employees direction and guidance and them not really knowing who they are supposed to be working for. I think we need to clear that path so that there is clear direction and they can work effectively. And then the second part of your question?
What would you do to address it and recommend to the city manager?
So yeah, so I would definitely recommend to the city manager that we put standard operating procedures in place as it relates to reporting, who our staff reports to. I would also make sure that we have an HR director who is there to hear concerns from our employees as it relates to their line of command, so that we can address those things and make sure that they're documented.
Alrighty, do you believe economic development only occurs within city boundaries, or do you believe council are ambassadors to do outreach in other cities and countries?
So I don't believe it just happens within city boundaries, but as far as council reaching out across other boundaries, municipalities, I would say yes. But when it gets to the point that we're overstepping our state lines, I think there needs to definitely be some type of policies and governors in place to determine at what point that is required and what the justifications are, the need, and even cost analysis to determine how much something like that should cost. But actually, we can't get our business straight in our city, so I don't know why we would be yet stepping outside of our municipality to do such, or outside of our state boundaries to do such.
Alrighty. Once you go in office, what is some legislation that you would like to implement?
So for me, I have great concern about impact fees because our tax dollars are constantly being used to repair damages that are done by developers that come into our communities that don't respect our communities and just leave us to fix whatever they break. So I also believe the impact fees can be used to bring about additional resources, green space, parks planning to add to that cost as we're bringing about new development and luring others to our city. So impact fees is definitely something that I want to write some governance around.
All righty, we recently approved a $400 million budget. And after 8 years, we still do not have anything that provides a local vendor preference program for the businesses within the city of South Fulton to have access to that budget. What's your response to hearing that?
I say, I
I'll slow
say,
it down and say, we have this $400 million budget, right? You have lots of
yeah.
businesses that are within the city limits of South Fulton. And a lot of vendors are from the city are not getting these big city contracts. What do you say to that?
I think that we need to better publicize these contracts so that we can have a larger pool of vendors apply for them. We don't often hear when they've been sent out, all we'll hear is something to the effect that, oh, we're going to send out, RFP or whatever. But when do they go out? Who was actually a part of that process and how it was awarded? Those are things that we don't always hear about. So we don't know until the award has been granted. And then even with that, some vendors come in and they lowball because they want the contract. And then after they get the contract, then the cost continually increases. So we definitely need to put a process in place where we advertise these we advertise these awards in a larger forum so that we can get the best and the most out of that advertisement.
All righty, let's talk about the council direct reports. You have the city attorney, the city clerk, the city manager, and the city municipal judge. If you were to do their annual review, what would you say for each position? How they're doing?
So starting with the city manager, well, all of them, I think, well, except for the judge, because I don't really have, much insight or hearing about the judge. I mean, what do we do? We have cases on tickets or something like that. So other than backlogs, I don't really hear a lot about how the judge may need to improve services. But I do hear, we may need to maybe add more staffing in order to decrease that backlog. But as for the city manager, when I look at things that are being done, I think we can definitely have room. We do have room for improvement, particularly when it comes to our financial reports. And I think it is also, she's covering a lot of bases, right? Some bases could be relinquished to the assistant city managers, but she's basically the spokesperson for everything. And as it relates to how I would rate her, I would actually ask the employees to rate her because they are the ones that have to deal with her and they are the ones that know if she is effective. So that was the city manager. The city clerk, there are definitely some things that he could work on, particularly in the qualification process as it relates to candidates. We just recently had a situation where somebody apparently was disqualified, but yet they applied and they were qualified. So how is that? I mean, is there something else that needs to be done in that qualification process? I think so. Other than just paying your money, what is the real work behind qualifying an individual to make sure they, you know, are qualified to run for the seat that they are running for?
If I'm being honest, I feel like I
Then,
lost someone too.
If our
so the
dishes were
judge, the
done
manager,
by them, even tomorrow, the results would have been very different.
And by that, do you mean that you would have won this
I'm
one?
sorry, we're trying
Because
to.
tomorrow they'll still taste your cuisine.
I tried adding depth into my dish, but I could not captivate their taste buds in one bite.
One moment.
That is also my shortcoming.
Alrighty, continue.
okay, and then the last position would be the city attorney. I definitely feel that she could do better as it relates to um, being parliamentarian over the meetings. There is a lot of things going on in those meetings that should not be. And I would think that she would be better able to control that from happening, as well as things that are going on with like the Wolf Creek Amphitheater. Like, how long are we going to be in litigation or discussion regarding whether or not we can take ownership, or do we need to sue to get it, or do we even want it? I just think there's a lot of time wasted that should not be, as it relates to definitely the Wolf Creek Amphitheater. So that's just one thing as it relates to the attorney. And then, like I said, the parliamentarian duties as it relates to overseeing the meetings could be better.
Alrighty. What would be your recommendation to the city manager regarding the Fulton County tax assessor collecting the solid waste fees for the residents?
Well, for me, I never thought it should have gone to the the Fulton County to collect. But so my recommendation is we definitely need to relook at that, do sanitation reform, and even with the collection process, because they do not even know how many homes are actually paying into that, because the Fulton County Tax Commissioner actually covers the cost for all of the homes that we have that should be paying for their sanitation. But I remember asking the question in one of the meetings, how many homes are actually paying? They don't know and they don't care. So we don't know if that process is really working effectively or not as intended. For them, it is, because they feel that they're getting the money that they were seeking as it relates to each home. But for us as homeowners and residents, is it really putting us in harm's way of losing our homes? So that's a concern for me.
Alrighty, if the city manager's contract is not renewed, should the council consider hiring from the current city manager, assistant city managers and department heads, or do a nationwide search? So should they hire from within or should they go out?
For me, I would always look to advance within if we are able to. If that is something that may be of interest, even to them. But I would not want to exclude them from that process, even if we were to go out and do a nationwide search. I think we should definitely open it up and do a search. But in the meantime, somebody may have to serve interim as the city manager while we do that search. And if in doing that search, we find out that the person that we've selected for that or appointed for that interim position, if they are really interested, or maybe we can even find out ahead of time if they are even interested. But nationwide searches, I think, are great. Competitiveness is great, but I think we do have some capable city managers or assistant city managers that would probably serve us well.
Hey,
Alrighty.
hey, Ms. Robinson, I have a question for you. When the sanitation program was started, you were tasked by elected officials to do some research with I think it was with your collaboration group on the sanitation models for various cities. What did you learn throughout that process about what's different with South Fulton as opposed to some of the other cities?
Great question, Rashad. Thank you for that. So what we did learn is that we were one of the larger municipalities that was um, seeking to do this with one source. And the way that we were looking to do that was really, it was really a large task that we were taking on. And so we compare apples to apples. We looked at several municipalities next to us, how they were set up, what their population size was, what the square mileage was as it relates to their city, and whether they went with a sole source provider or whether they went with customer selection choice. And so, like I said, no one really compared in size to us and had the one source like our city council decided to go with. So it really, in my opinion, was not a wise decision at that time. I think some more research should have been done by them, even with us doing the research that was provided to them and giving them our documentation and sources. Some of them never even looked at it. I remember one council member said she never got it. And I remember my council member saying, yeah, we got it. So even when citizens do research and try to provide it to our council members, they don't always take it into consideration. And I think that's sad on their part because here we are trying to help them help us, but they are not always open to that. So thank you for that question, Mr. Snellings.
Oh, no problem. And then the second part to that question, this relates to the budget. So, a couple years ago, I don't remember which year it was, but we had a budget hearing where residents were tasked with reviewing the budget and making recommendations on what should be cut out of that budget or what we could live without. Now, what were some things that you think should be cut out of this year's budget as we asked to do when that occurred like 2 years ago?
So, uh, you want to talk about what could be cut out, but I know, like you said, 2 years ago, that was in, I believe, 23. And they had things in there like $500,000 for Christmas lights and $200,000 for canopies at Wolf Creek and, things like that. And I remember pushing back on that budget. I said, because this is ridiculous, and pushing back on the millage rate. So the city manager said, okay, well, we'll have to look at some budget cuts and this and that and the other. So some of those suggestions that I just mentioned were made, and they were able to reduce some of the line items for the budget so that we could roll back the millage rate. So that definitely was a win. But as far as this year's budget, there's, in my opinion, so many things that are not even mentioned in the budget. So, and when I say that, for instance, lawsuits, how much are we spending on lawsuits? Because that's definitely something that could get cut out of the budget, right? But we don't even know where that line item falls, right? Or how much is being spent. But I do know that we have a tremendous amount of lawsuits and we're spending money defending them, the council and mayor, on things that should not be. And then the sad part about it is we have employees suing our city officials. So we definitely need to put some measures in place to help our employees, as well as look at how much money we are throwing away on repeat offenders for things that should not be as it relates to this budget.
All right, can you tell me 3 things specific to District 2 and how you would address them?
So you said 3 things,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
And it doesn't have to be 3 if you don't have 3, but I was just thinking, what are 3 issues you believe are in District 2 and how would you handle them?
Traffic calming is definitely a key concern. I know it has been brought up about the Butner Road and the Camp Creek intersection, which we've had at least 37 fatalities happen at that intersection. And I think the last one that I'm recalling, it may have been 2 years ago, but there have been accidents there since then. That was just the last death. And it was so much so that Atlanta named us one of the fifth most dangerous streets in Atlanta because that corridor is actually part of a CID section with Atlanta. And so I know we've talked about getting, the South Fulton police to kind of manage that corridor, and they rotate, the busiest corridors where they're having the most problems as far as the police going around to the different intersections. But I would even try to work with the CID units to see if they can help us manage that corridor until we can get GDOT to do something different, even if it's just adding some traffic calming measures to kind of slow that traffic down as people feed into that intersection on Camp Creek Parkway.
All righty, I'm gonna start taking questions from the floor, and our first question comes from Brandon.
Hey, thank you, Tamiko, and thank you, Ms. Connie, for being
Hi.
here.
Thank you.
I do have a few questions. So, what is your understanding of the difference between the legislative priorities of council and administrative duties of staff? And how will you ensure accountability from staff while respecting the council manager form of government?
Okay. So can you slow it down for me? So the first question again?
Oh, sorry. So, what is your understanding of the difference between legislative priorities of council and administrative duties of staff?
So the legislative priorities is council will write the ordinances and the policies and staff will carry them out. They'll just simplify it for you.
So how will you ensure the accountability from staff for those legislative priorities while respecting the council manager form of government?
I think we still have to have oversight. I think it's more than just writing the laws and expecting, our policies or whatever to be followed through on. I think we also still have to be involved to make sure there's some understanding and to make sure that they are communicating whatever those rules are to the employees, to the staff, to make sure to close the gap and make sure we're all on the same page. Because I see where when I say we, council has written, certain ordinances, and when it comes to the staff carrying them out, there's a disconnect. And so how do we bridge that gap to make sure everybody is on the same page? And one in particular I'll bring up is the parking ordinance. And we've had changes to that or whatever. But when it comes to you have the ordinance and then you have the police that's supposed to enforce it, when they come out to the communities are not always getting the enforcement piece that they think they should be receiving based on that ordinance.
So
So that's just one.
how would you, I guess my question is, how would you work with the city manager because you are not allowed to direct staff? How would you work with that city manager to make sure that your priorities on council are being effectuated in the community?
So, and I like that question. And so I would definitely have conversations with the city manager and have meetings with the city manager and even ask if I can be a part of the dialogue or the informational session or whatever they decide to call it as it relates to communicating what that legislation is to the staff so that if there are any questions or any gaps in how it's communicated, because I wrote the legislation, I would be there to help vet or to help answer any questions that may come about.
Got it. Thank you. Am I allowed to ask follow-up questions?
Yes, and then we'll move on to Jane.
Okay. So last question. What is your position on tying new legislation to long-term fiscal planning instead of just the promises that you're providing us today?
So you said, what is my what? Tying, I'm sorry, repeat that.
No, you're no worries. What is your position on tying new legislation to long-term fiscal planning instead of just the promises that you're providing us today?
So right now, I'm definitely giving you promises based on what I see. As I step into that seat and I see what's happening, I can more solidify what those promises are. So I'm not just giving pipe dreams like we've so often heard. I'm telling you what I intend to do. And then when I get in that seat, I'm going to work with the legislators to make it happen. It's a 4-year term.
So
Alrighty.
how would you bridge that with the fiscal planning that's already in place at the city?
So I would definitely look at the fiscal planning that's already in place, but as we know, some of the things that are in place are not working or they're broken. And these are things that we would definitely have to address and amend.
Alrighty. So let me get a question from Jane.
Oh, thank you for that. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, Miss Connie. How are you tonight?
Hi, Jane. I'm doing pretty good. Thank y'all
Great,
all for
great.
being here.
Yes, and thank you for showing up, and thank you all for hosting this, Rashad and Tamiko. Okay. Well, I got a couple questions here. Okay. So lately, well, I attend meetings pretty regular, right? But how do you feel about the public comments and the public not being able to comment on what they want to comment on at that particular council meeting? How do you feel about that? And do you think that that should be changed?
So, yes, I feel that should be changed because I believe that we should hear from the people. We don't always have opportunities, or let me put it this way. Council is not always aware when people are available to meet or to come up to a meeting or what have you. And as we mentioned earlier, there are so many meetings going on. It's like you have to pick and choose. So as it relates to the council meetings, those are generally set meetings. Everybody know they're second and fourth Tuesday, and they're public comment sessions. So people can kind of better gauge if they're able to attend those meetings and if they have something that they want to discuss or at least share and put on the record. I think they should be able to do so. We have to keep in mind, it's only 30 minutes, and each person is only allowed 2 minutes to
That's right.
speak. Now, how we may need to prioritize that as it relates to agenda items and non-agenda items, that might be something that we can look at, but I definitely think that people should be free to share, respectfully, of course, whatever topic it is that they think needs to be brought to the attention of our mayor and council or our city manager.
And okay, now where do you think the public comment section should be on the agenda? Last, in the middle, or first?
So with that question, I know it. So I'm gonna say first where it is, basically first, because I was gonna say sometimes, I think we need to hear the discussions around it in case it may tweak what it is that we actually want to say. But based on the information that's already been put out about those topics, I think we probably have enough to go ahead and speak to it for those little 2 minutes that we have. But keep in mind, it's several agenda topics, and in 2 minutes, we got to cover all of them that we want to speak to. So
That's
yeah,
right. Thank
yeah,
you. Thank you
you're
so
welcome.
much. All right.
Alrighty. Kevin, you have a question.
Yes. Hi, Connie. How you doing?
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Good, good. My question is, do you believe District 2 needs affordable housing? Yes or no? And if yes, how exactly does affordable housing look within your vision, and where in District 2 would you target placing it?
So there was a couple of questions. Let me make sure I got them all. So first one was, do I think District 2 needs affordable housing? And
Yes.
for that, my answer would be where? Okay. So we could say yes, we could use affordable housing, but then we have to define where should that housing go in District 2. We have to look at the available land, the zoning and all of that, and then determine if that's the appropriate place for it. So um based on the, just the housing prices that we have in District 2, I don't see where so-called affordable housing would fit at this particular time. So to directly answer your question, is probably no. I don't think it should be in District 2.
Thank you.
And what was the rest of your question?
No, that was it. You answered
Okay,
my stuff thoroughly. All right.
thank you.
All righty. Brandon, you have a question?
Okay, so yeah, sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. Um, so just going back to what you mentioned before about the budget. So you mentioned that there were some things in the budget that wasn't working, right? So if there's a shortfall, what exactly would you cut as a council member, and what would you protect? Like public safety, infrastructure, youth programs, or senior services, what specifically would you cut in the budget that is not working?
So what I would cut is all these events we're having, first of all, because we have too many. And I think we can work better together as a city if we combined a lot of these events and if we kind of floated them around the city so that we're not duplicating efforts and we're giving opportunity for our citizens to explore other parts of our city. So definitely with all of these events, when you say programs, we can definitely look to other sources for funding as it relates to programs. I know the county is responsible for, human services. Why aren't we working with them to fund some of these programs that we have here in the city? And then also our district, we need programs. We definitely need programs for our youth. That's something that we need to add into the budget because I don't know where it is. So we know that our youth were displaced, talking about District 2. When it comes to Cliftondale, our cultural arts center was torn down. Our children that were going there for after school services and different programs and stuff, those things went away. So where are those programs happening? Because I haven't heard about them. I know I was taking classes up at the cultural arts center as well. So we no longer have that. And then we spent all of this money, 400 some $1,000 for the work that we have done over at Cliftondale, which is what, a walking trail. We did we redid the tennis court and things like that. Oh, and don't let me forget our really nice what you call the little pet doggy park thingy. All of the money that we put in that. But where's the money that we're putting in our people? So I see the money that we're allocating for buildings, for outdoors, but where's the money that we are dedicating so that our people have resources and programs that they can benefit from other than seniors? Yeah, we do a lot of things for seniors, and don't get me wrong, I'm a senior myself. So I appreciate all the things that we're doing for seniors, but our youth, they are our future, and we need to actually have programs and things for them to benefit from and help them. So I don't know if that directly answered your question, but yeah, our events, we definitely can cut back on.
It did, thank you. And just a follow-up to that. So what programs would you provide to us in this district for youth? How would you get those programs and how would they be funded outside of
So
Parks and Recreation?
outside of Parks and Recreation. So first of all, I would go to the community to find out what type of programs are they interested in, because we don't want to bring programs that they don't want. So we need to look at what programs they are even interested in. Where are they going outside of their community to go to programs where they're probably spending extra money, to have those programs there. And then I will work with definitely the county because they have funding that we should be able to benefit from to help bring those programs to us. So So yeah, so when it comes to the youth, I would create a focus group of youth and ask them. We talk about all these other focus groups. We got all these boards. I think the city manager said we had like 14 boards that we don't even know what they're doing. And because they're not providing any reports, if they're even still active. And a matter of fact, she put a moratorium on boards, but we're still creating new ones. But I would definitely create some type of focus group with the youth, not the parents. The parents can bring them, but I want to talk to the youth and find out what is it that they are interested in that we need to bring here to our district for them.
Thank you. And just last question, do you have an idea outside of speaking with the youth of what you think our youth might want? And not just the youth, the young adults as well, because as myself, living as a millennial in this district, I would like to see a lot more entertainment. So like, what would you consider would be something that you would want to bring here in District 2?
So, and like you said, your age group as well, definitely. But as far as definitely entertainment, because we don't have any entertainment venues here. I know STEM classes and all of that is happening or whatever. The technology driven stuff is happening. We definitely need to bridge the digital divide, and bring some of that stuff. You see youth all the time on their phones, maybe some gaming classes or something. I mean, I don't know because I'm not that young. So, but I see, what the youth are engaging in now. And it's like, how do you get their attention and bring things about that will not only teach them and educate them, but even help them? They may even be able to pursue, a career in some of these things. So that's why I would want to have the conversation with them and not just go off of what I think they may want, but actually hear what do they want, because that's where the money would be best put to use.
Okay, thank you for that.
All
Welcome.
right,
Thank you.
Jane, you have a question?
Please unmute your mic.
Oh,
You have the
okay,
floor.
okay, Tamiko, I can go last because I got a couple questions. Let some of the other people that have not spoken go ahead and go, okay?
All righty.
Thank you, honey.
Cody?
Hello. Hi, Connie. How are you?
Hi,
Hey,
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Hey, I just want to know what are your thoughts on us paying the city manager over $300,000 when the president of the United States makes 400,000 and the city of Atlanta mayor makes 200,000? We was talking about some things that could be cut in the budget. I feel like that could be something because every time we turn around, we have uh, something happen in the city. She's not aware of it. So I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Thank you for that question. And I'm gonna tell you, I was actually at that council meeting fighting against that very thing when they gave her this $70,000 raise and this benefits package that was unheard of, and they made it immediate. And so, yes, definitely the city manager's salary could be cut. I know we may have set, some type of standard by giving her that. And so, but the long story short of it is that is definitely something that should not be, because as I brought up at that meeting, the president's base salary was 400K at the time, and she was bringing in over 300K when you factored in her benefits package. So it was really unheard of, and I didn't understand why our council was granting such a salary increase at that particular time. So thank
Thank
you
you.
for your question. But yes, that's definitely something that could be cut.
All righty. Lynn?
Okay, hey Connie.
Hi, Lynn.
Hey, so my question is around hospitals, and I know that's come up in the past. I know Union City has I don't know if that's a clinic or something coming up over there off 92. Do you think that the city of South Fulton and specifically District 2 should campaign to get either some type of clinic, outpatient, or a hospital within our district?
Thank you, Lynn, for that question. And I'm glad you brought that topic up because I want to mention to you all, and I don't know who may have been around when this happened, but I was also at this city council meeting when Senator Donzella James and Councilman Butler, I believe was his name, from East Point, came and approached our council about forming a hospital, what was it? They wanted to form
Alliance.
a hospital authority.
Okay.
They wanted to form a hospital authority because we did not have any hospitals on the south side. So to answer your question, Lynn, we need a hospital. And they were only asking for $75,000, and they were asking for each municipality on the south side to put in $75,000 to explore this hospital authority. And our council said no. And I could not understand that. When we throw away millions of dollars, we've given over $1 million to what is the sanitation, Merck Miles, to do what they said was some safety things they needed to fix for however few people utilize that facility. And we just gave $1 million to the Miracle League, which, you know, whether they deserved it or not, I don't know, but I'm sure there were many other nonprofits out here that should have qualified for some of that funding. Like, how do we even determine that's how much money we're giving and then we give it to one entity? I have questions about that. And then when we talk about it was Merck Miles, it was the Miracle League. So anyway, I could go on, but it's so many other things that are lesser of importance when it comes to human life that we would not explore a hospital authority, but we grab a shovel and take a picture for the one that's being built at Union City as if we had something to do with that. I have a problem with that, but we definitely need to bring a hospital to South Fulton. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
All right, Jewel Johnson has a question.
Hi, Connie. How are you
Hi.
today?
I'm good. How are you, Jewel?
I'm awesome as usual. Listen, I'd like to know what your position is as it relates to us having a forensic audit. We had one just on the mayor, but with all the different hiccups that we've had as it relates to money, can you explain to me what your position would be with that?
So I think we definitely need to know where our money is going. My concern is to do a forensic audit. Is that going to bring us any results? Because we've had so many audits done already that nothing happens. Matter of fact, even the police audit, there was a police audit done in 23 on the different things that was going on. And I don't know if you all are aware of, you know, we have even police personnel filing lawsuits and things like that about what's happening in our police department. Our police chief is on extended leave, I'll say, with pay for the different things that have happened. But there was a report done, there was an audit done in 2023, in December 2023, that apparently just kind of surfaced or resurfaced that, from what I understand, you know, several of the council members was not even aware that this particular audit report existed, in which there were over 100 recommendations, and none of them had been addressed until we got, you know, the new guy that we have now over public safety, Mr. Alexander, I believe is his name, that I guess he's implementing some of the recommendations that were made. So when it comes to an audit, yes, I would definitely be for it, but only if it's going to yield us some results. Right now, we have no enforcement. So doing the audit, spending money, and not having any enforcement behind it, to me, is a waste of money. And we were just talking about, you know, different things that we would cut out of the budget. We mentioned the city manager salary, but I would also say some of our personnel, because in that audit that I just mentioned, one of the recommendations, it said that we were top heavy. We were top heavy and that we needed more foot patrol. So when you look at position titles and salaries and things of that nature, we need to make sure it's properly aligned and that we have the people serving the people, that we have the personnel serving the people, because I hear about so many calls where you can't get anybody at City Hall. You're calling, you're going up there, and I got my own experiences. You know, I go up there, I wait 30 minutes, and then they tell me they don't even know if the person is in the building, you know, and I'm like, well, why'd you ask me to have a seat? You know, and then they got to email the person. You know, you ain't even calling the person on the phone no more. You emailing them and you waiting on them to respond. I have a problem with that. We should be providing customer service at many of these positions. And when it comes to police, we need boots on the ground. We need people that are going to respond. People are always talking about, oh, I called 911 and it took this long for the officer to get to me. I had one of those stories too. You know, an officer want to tell me it's going to take him 45 minutes, so he's going to call tomorrow. I said, oh, no. Well, he's going to come tomorrow. I said, no, you coming today. Somebody coming today. I called 911. They called you. So you apparently are the person that's on duty that is supposed to respond to this 911 emergency. And if you are not that person, then who do I got to call? And I start naming names. And next thing I know, he came. And when he came, he took action because it was an actionable offense that had occurred that needed to be addressed by the police. So back to the boots on the ground, we need to look at our structure, our organizational structure. We need to look at how many chiefs do we have versus how many Indians, because we need people that can service our communities.
Well, Connie, you gave us a whole lot, even moving away from the question. And I agree with you with all those things that you have said. But what's very, very important, people must know where their money is going. The type of audit that I'm talking about, it will not sit on the shelf. I'm speaking of a forensic audit that dives into everything, every department, because that's the only way that we're going to find out where our money is going. But you did give us a lot. And I say thank you. That is, I really know that a lot of what you said is a managerial problem. They are not managing. So if we know where our money is going, we can make sure we can get some good management going.
If we know where it's going and we're able to change that, but we can only change that if we change the people that are overseeing that. So that's
true.
why I said, if there's going to be some results behind it, because I don't want us to just be spending money unnecessarily and nothing happens until we can change.
That kind of audit is not going to be overlooked. It will not sit on a shelf. Not that kind.
All right, Miss Jewel, she's giving you her answer. You got to let her give her answer.
Okay, go ahead, Connie.
No, I basically said, yeah, I could support that as long as we have players that will follow through on that. Because again, like even with the one they did on the mayor, that to me was a problem. We the people have been calling for a forensic audit for years. And when you do decide to do it, you do it on one person instead of doing it on the whole process and holding everybody accountable that is utilizing that process so that we can look and see where the fraud, waste, and abuse is occurring and do something about that. So for me, that was definitely misaligned in how that was done. And if we're going to move forward with it, we need to move forward across the board and we need to have some teeth in it if we're going to spend the money to do it. So
okay,
that's my
thank
answer.
you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
All right, Rashard, do you have a question?
Yes, I just wanted to acknowledge Jane if she still had her question. I know she deferred until everyone else asked their questions. Jane, are you still here? All right.
Yeah, all right. Do you have a question, Rashard, or you just want to remind everybody to raise their hand if they have a question?
I was just acknowledging her.
Okay. So we have a couple more hands raised. All righty. Phyllis?
I wanted to say I'm still here. I couldn't unmute myself, Rashad. But,
Okay,
but go ahead, come back
go
to
ahead, Jane.
yeah. Okay, so now my question is, all right, so we want to keep our city beautified, right?
Yes.
You know, when I went up to Alpharetta and Milton, these past couple of months, and when you get off the interstate, it's just so beautiful. You just sit down and look at how beautiful it is just by them mowing their lawn and just keeping it manicured, right?
Mm-hmm.
But something happens when I get off the interstate over here in the city of South Fulton. The grass is not cut. And then when it does get cut, it looks a hot mess, like they just chopped it up. And then the businesses, like the gas station and stuff, because where I live over here right off 85 on Flat Shoals Road, you got all the gas stations right here. And they don't keep their grass cut either. So I'm just trying to figure out, and maybe you can help me with this. How do we keep, especially since I think this is what's his name? Venezuela. This is area where he's supposed to be doing. So how do we get our city looking, as neatly groomed? And some people say, oh, well, they got all this stuff to do and blah blah blah. Okay, I can't keep hearing that. People got to do their jobs. So how do you? First of all, do you see that that's a problem? Number one. And then how do we rectify it? Or what do you see
So,
some things we can do to try to rectify, overgrown grass, tree, trash, and all that kind of stuff,
so
sidewalks?
you hit on a hot topic for me.
I
Code
know.
enforcement.
I
I
know.
think they really need to be trained on what they need to look for other than candidate signage. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Don't
Because
get me
I tell you,
started.
I hear so
Mm-hmm.
many candidates, me included,
Mm-hmm.
where they quick to send you a letter talking about your
Your
sign
sign.
and yeah, you're right, problems with your sign. But no
Mm-hmm.
evidence that there's a
Mm-hmm.
problem with your sign other than they don't like your sign, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. But as you pointed out, we got all of these issues, whether it's lawn care, bad
Mm-hmm.
grass, abandoned cars, whatever code enforcement is responsible for. Oh, they take a minute to get to that issue. But like you said, beautification. Can't they help us maintain beauty in our community by citing those areas that need to be addressed and going after those owners to make sure they
Mm-hmm.
are aware something needs to be done, or even making our city manager aware if the landscapers are not doing their job? Because I know I've driven past them, and one guy, he's just up in his truck with his legs crossed. I guess he's the supervisor, while the other guys are running around, mowing the lawn or whatever. But I know I've talked to him on several occasions, said, look, this area over here need to be cut back. Y'all got this brush going all the way to the curb. It needs to be cut back, but he'll say, okay, they don't always speak,
Mm-hmm.
English or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case might be.
Mm-hmm.
But long story short, he appeared as though he understood, and that still has not been addressed after the third time, and I'm like, it should not take all of this. So for me, I think just making sure we have the right oversight over our departments to make sure they are communicating and they are checking. I think the problem is
Mm-hmm.
we give guidance, but then there's no oversight to make
Right.
sure the guidance that was provided was received and acted upon in the correct way. So we
Mm-hmm.
definitely need follow through as it relates to that guidance to make sure they're doing their jobs.
Right. Okay, Miss Connie, thank you so much. And to add to that, like you were saying, well, first of all, our code enforcement, they're not proactive, they're reactive, which means we got to call them with a problem first before they will react to that. And I also asked them one time, I forget the guy's name, but he's gone now. And I said, well, why do you take up my signs and y'all can't get out here and address this grass? He said that it takes less time to pick up our signs than it does to address uh violation. But anywho.
Wow, but that's
okay,
their job. And
that's
then even
right.
to go on the part about addressing the signs, there is like, why isn't there some type of standard form that
Mm-hmm.
they're issuing as it relates to a violation? You know, they just sending you a regular email and it's not even on letterhead. You know, I'm like, come on now, we can do better if that's the case. So that's something else
Right.
I'll be trying to look into once I get out.
Okay,
Mhm.
that sounds great. Thank you, Miss Connie.
Thank you.
All righty, Ms. Phyllis, you have a question?
Ms. Phyllis Reed, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Oh, I'm
Please.
sorry. I apologize. I'm talking.
Yes.
I'm thinking of. I'm sorry. It's maybe somebody's already asked this question. I've been doing double duty tonight. But anyway, my question to you, Connie, is: have you received any type of contributions or funding from developers, builders, lawyers that are representing these developers, or law firms that have been representing these developers, as far as political contributions? Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
what was the question?
Okay, has Connie received any type of political contributions from developers, builders, law firms that's representing these developers, or lawyers that are representing these developers?
Okay.
Political campaign contributions.
I think we lost Ms. Robinson.
Ready, so hold with your question till we can get her back on.
Okay.
We were having some technical difficulties at the beginning. So we'll assume that maybe she's having some technical difficulties again with the signal. Um, all righty, I'm reading the chat. While we're waiting for that, her to try to get back on, Rashard, would you like to give
She's
them?
having an internet issue, so she's
Mhm.
trying to reconnect now.
Yes. While we're waiting for her to get back on, would you like to tell everybody why you started, you and your compadres started this association or this group?
Yeah, so we started the South Fulton Coalition because we wanted to have more information that was passed out to the residents of the city of South Fulton. Oftentimes we hear things in council meetings, so we just wanted to have more community education for everyone in the city. Now, with these candidate forums, we wanted to make sure the candidates had a platform where they can talk about just their platform and their residents could get their questions answered prior to them going to the polls.
Alrighty, so is this organization just going to be focused on the city of South Fulton?
For right now, it's focused on the city of South Fulton, but we do plan to expand it to the region that encompasses South Fulton, so all of our neighboring cities as well. So as we grow, that's what the intent is.
Alrighty, would your forum be just interviewing candidates who are up for election, or will there be other topics?
Oh, there will be other topics. So, one of the topics that I'm working on right now is in January, we plan to bring Commissioner Khadijah, who represents part of District 1 for the city of South Fulton. And then we're trying to get Marvin Arrington as well, who represents the majority of the city of South Fulton. And they are going to talk about some of the policies and changes and things that people should know that impact the county as a whole.
Will you be having educational topics or have you had them in the past?
Yeah, so in the past we had one on Robert's Rule of Order. We had one on open government, which consists of open meetings, open records. Um, and we also had one that people will remember. It was a kind of a controversial topic. It was dealing with Mansa Park. That was the first one that we did live in person. That was done at the Masonic Lodge in Old National.
Would you be open to asking officials on the state level?
Yes, we will be interested in having officials on the state level as well.
Alrighty. I am checking to see if
I'm sorry.
I was checking to see if she had made it back in, but she has not. So Ms. Pam, is your question for Rashard or you're holding for when Ms. Connie gets back in? Ms. Harvey?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, is your
Okay.
question for the
No, I
candidate?
don't have a question. I want to make a statement of what Ms. Jane said about when she travels to Milton and some other city, they're all nice and clean and tidy and that sort of thing, and they don't have any dead grass. That's because those people take pride in their city. Okay, so I remember 8 years ago, when myself got a committee together and some people to help clean up a place where contractors were dumping their debris. Now, at the time that I got on this project, there was nobody else in the community could care less about it. They could care less about their neighborhood. And to make a long story short, I think you can't put this sort of thing totally on government. It has to be the community that gets involved if you want a clean and nice city. So if you see junk on a street or bags of styrofoam containers on the side of the road, get out and pick it up. I keep bags in my car. And if I see it, I'll go out there and pick it up. I'm not going to call Public Works to come out there and pick up a few pieces of paper. It's ridiculous. And then what kills me about some people that I've known over the years, where they were living in a black neighborhood, but then they moved to a white neighborhood because they didn't want to have to deal with the terrible schools and the trash. Well, clean up your own neighborhood and get involved in city government to improve your schools. So I wanted to tell Miss Jane that you can't put all the responsibility on government to clean up your neighborhood. Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, so what I don't want this forum to turn into a community debate. It is a forum for the council candidates. What we are doing is trying to fill in some of the time until we can get our candidate back on the line. So I don't want to everybody's point is valid. Whether you agree with it or not, they're valid because that's their experience. So we don't want to discount what anybody is saying, whether they believe to be true or if it's not true. Their experience is true to them. And so your experience is true to you. So we don't want to get into trying to chastise anybody, and we don't want to get into whether it's racial or financial. We just want to talk about an issue that's happening in the community and how we should address it. All right. How are we doing, Rashard? We're getting her back.
We have Ms. Robinson back.
All righty. Ms. Robinson, we have a couple of questions for you. Earl, do you have a question for the candidate?
Can you unmute me? Redo my video? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm on mute. Yes, I do have a question. Thank you, Tamiko. Thank you, Connie. I have a two-part question. The first question, there's a lot of talk about density in the city of South Fulton. There's a lack of density. We need more community development in order for us to attract um, businesses, better shopping and grocery stores. Um, do you agree with that whole density statement that um, the current council has been pushing? Or do you think that we have enough density here in the city of South Fulton to warrant us going out and attracting um, better food options in terms of grocery stores and shopping, et cetera?
Ms. Robinson, can you hear us?
We just lost her again.
All righty.
All right. And then my other question, it would be for Rashad. Thank you for creating this forum. So with your coalition, are you going to have like a knowledge base that residents can go back to and access information that's happening in the city of South Fulton to learn more about Robert's rules and just to stay abreast of what's happening?
Yeah, so the website is currently being redesigned right now, and there is going to be a knowledge base on the website. We also plan to have a database where residents can submit open records requests that they've received from the city, so that there is a searchable database, and you don't have to request records that were already requested. So those are some of the things that we're planning on doing right now. But that's going to be a work in progress, so there will be more to come on that as well.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
And we are just waiting on Connie to rejoin. She's having an issue in her area with her Wi-Fi, so she should be rejoining momentarily. And I do apologize for this.
All right, so I'll continue to interview you, Rashard, until they come back, till she gets back on.
Okay.
Is there a way people can submit topics to potentially consider for your events that'll be scheduling for 2026?
Yes, so I am going to put my contact information in the chat, and then you can just reach out to me directly, and then we can get those under consideration.
What
And
made
I
you and your participants, I'm going to repeat it again. I know that I'm saying, it sounds like I'm asking again, but were there specific events that made you and your partners trigger to put this coalition together? Was there
so
specific things?
Yeah, so for me, that was there was a council meeting where the mayor tried to bring the Georgia Municipal Association to the council meeting for a public training on open records and open meetings, and he was restricted. There was a council vote to stop that presentation from occurring. So for me, that was what triggered it. I wanted to learn more about those topics, and we weren't the residents were prohibited from listening to the topic. So that's what triggered it for me. And so after we got the coalition off the ground, we worked with the mayor and the Georgia First Amendment Foundation to bring that training over to the residents of South Fulton, and that was something that the mayor co-hosted with us to bring that training. So I would say that was the event.
All righty, we have Ms. Connie here. The question was, where's your thoughts about the density comments that are being made in regards to putting in more opportunities for eateries and additional stores or restaurants? What is your thoughts about that regarding them saying the density issue? Hold on, we need to get her to unmute. Hold on one second. Alrighty, Miss Connie, can you say something?
I am so sorry. This is the daggone internet. So when y'all talk about them data centers and stuff and the power they're gonna take, okay, keep that in mind. But I'm sorry, I got lost. My internet lost signal, but Earl was speaking and he was talking about the density. So I
In
wasn't sure.
regards to getting the restaurants that people would like to see in the community?
Right. So I think we have to look at other sources to help us. I mean, I know like me, myself, and I know some other residents, like when we go out to different places where we enjoy, we'll inquire about, who do we speak with to talk about bringing, an establishment such as this to our city, right? And they will tell you, I know like even when I went to Costco, they were like, oh, we're actually looking at expanding to like 12 other locations. They're trying to identify sites. So I think we as a people can actually do some of that footwork, but also there are businesses that they specialize in that. And one of them I became aware of recently was the retail strategy company. I don't know exactly what the name was, but they recently did a presentation at the last meeting and they were talking about all of their research and the different things that they do to help identify businesses, identify the market, identify what our needs are. I believe right now they're working with District 4 or in District 4 to bring a grocery store or looking at what grocery stores may be suitable based on one not being there and how far the district has to drive in order to get to the closest grocery store. I want to say, I think Sizemore also has some relationships and the city is working with them now. They're doing some things. And I'm saying all that to say, there are companies that we can work with to do this work for us so that we don't have to do all of the groundwork ourselves. They have resources, they have tools, they have connections, and we have economic development, but where are they in this process? Like what has happened to them? Because they're also supposed to be a key component in helping us to identify and bring development to our city. But I know when I went to the City of South Fulton, no, it was the council, and they had a meeting with the South Fulton Development Authority, and the Development Authority expressed they had been trying to have a meeting with our city council and that one particular meeting was long overdue and that they needed to know more about the different roles as it relates to, who does what, whether it's the development authority, the economic development, the South Fulton, the downtown development. We got all these development authorities, but who's doing what and when? And they need to have conversations and they need to have meetings and they need to be able to better work to know more about what each other does so they can work better together. So to answer your question about, the density and all of that, yeah, we hear all of that. And of course, we probably do need density in some aspects because what is it? The region has the ARC, right? Atlanta Regional Commission. They have expressed that we do need, housing in our city. But what they did not say is where. And that's something that we have to identify. And we can't just continue to let developers come in and tell us where they want to put their housing to the point of them trying to rezone our land. We're supposed to identify what we need where and then work with those entities that can help bring us what it is we need in our city. And one of the other things I heard is we need an attraction. Like what attracts people to City of South Fulton? We have no key, landmark, milestone, city hall, nothing that will draw people to us. And so that's something else we need to look at. Like, what do we need to happen here where when people come, that's what they're trying to experience?
Okay.
I was going to thank you, Connie. And then Tamika, I just had one more question for Connie. The second question is around, we're having a lot of developers that are coming into our city and building communities that are subpar And I'm speaking from personal experience. And what would you do once you get on council to prevent these builders that come into our city and build subpar homes because our city is primarily African American? So, what checks and balances are you going to do or put in place with the other council members to ensure that, you know, homeowners, particularly people of color, are protected from these greedy developers that are aligning their pockets with a lot of potentially folks that might be on council? They might be supporting their campaigns. You know, I'm just loosely throwing that out there. What are you going to do to ensure that, you know, communities are protected?
So one of the things that I do plan to do is we need to make sure we identify these developers that are coming in building subpar communities that our homeowners are left to try to rectify and are spending thousands and thousands of dollars to fix things that should have never been the way that they are receiving them. We do not have, in my opinion, a thorough inspection process as it relates to walking through what these developers are doing. And I would like to definitely get a better handle on that as far as oversight to make sure that we, being the city manager or whomever, not just that department, but whoever oversees that department, have people in place that can walk through these communities as they are being developed, not once they are completed and somebody is signing off on some paperwork saying, okay, y'all done. Okay, now y'all can leave. No, we need people to walk through every stage of that process because they have to get inspections after each phase of trade that they are putting into these developments. And so we need to make sure we have people that are skilled and specialized and more than one person to go through and make sure all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted before we allow them to move on to that next phase. So we have to make sure we have the right people. But more than that, as a council member, I plan to make sure we have a list. Who is this developer? How long have they been developing? What communities have they developed? What type of feedback have we received from the community? And if it's negative, because I've heard a whole bunch of horror stories from different communities based on some of these developers, and I'm not even going to begin to name them, but we do not get what we pay for.
Yep.
And our dollars are green just like everybody else's, regardless of where you are, red, black, green, or blue. We have the same dollars that we're spending and that we expect quality work for the dollars that we're spending. And the ones that are not serving our community or our city well, we don't want you back here. And we got to have the documentation to show why. We can't just say, oh, no, we don't want you here. We don't like you. No, we got to tell them and we got to be able to prove why they're not getting business in our city. So that's one of the things I do plan to work on, and hopefully am able to win the other council members over so that we all are working the same as it relates to keeping bad development out of our city, bad developers out of our city.
Thank you, Connie.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Rashard, do you have a question?
Yes. So as part of the sanitation fees that we pay, I believe it's around $234 annually. One of the components that makes up that fee is the street sweeping. Do you think there should be a program that is designed where the street sweepers can come into subdivisions or come into neighborhoods to do the street sweeping, because those gutters do get clogged as well? I know I've contacted Antonio Valenzuela about this, and he said that there is no program for it. So what are your thoughts on the private streets being swept as well as streets within subdivisions?
Thank you for that question, Rashad. Many of these streets in subdivisions are city streets. The city want to regulate who can use them, what developers can come through and use them, and everything else. Yes, the subdivisions also need to be a part of that street sweeping process. When we have asked about having our streets swept, we were told, oh, there's only 2 machines or 2 pieces of equipment, as if they don't have enough equipment to service our communities. But they throw away a lot of money, right? Get some more equipment. If it's a priority that we need our streets clean, then we need to be able to buy what we need to get the job done. And so that is definitely something I plan to look into once I'm in office. Thank you for that question.
I have a question or asking your comments. So, earlier you talked about the city losing a lot of money on lawsuits. However, procurements or contracts also may have lost a lot of money, or staff are signing off on things that they shouldn't be. Do you think staff should be held accountable if they're signing off on these developers? Should they personally be liable? Number one. And then number two, should someone be responsible when contracts are being given that may not be, trying to be delicate with my question, which is not going, okay, somebody just getting a hookup on these contracts.
And I know things are not always as they appear, but I agree. It appears somebody is getting the hookup because of all the bad development that we are getting with these contracts. And as far as responsibility and accountability, yes, when we, as a government employee, and like I said, I spent almost 4 decades as a government employee, we take an oath, right? We take an oath that we're going to do the right thing. And so, yes, we should be held accountable. If it's something that we should not be doing, or if it's something that we don't know if we should be doing it, then we need to ask questions. And we need to make sure we document whoever told us to do whatever as if that's part of our job. Because I know a lot of times people get other duties as assigned, right? Well, guess what? You might need to get that particular duty in writing, because you'll be held accountable for authorizing something that you should not have. And as it relates to procurement, we have a lot of things happening that should not be happening. And we have a lot of broken processes that we definitely need to address. I know me personally, I was one of the ones that actually filed lawsuit against the city because of procurement processes, contracts that were, well, we didn't have contracts for, but we were spending a lot of money on things that, again, we didn't have contracts for, and there was no real paper trail. And then the city council, they ratified the agreement 10 months later. How do you approve something based on transactions that happened over a 10-month period that you didn't even know anything about, but you're going to act like it's okay and say, okay, we approve this, but we're going to try to do the right thing going forward. And that, again, was in 2023. And here we are in 2025, getting ready to hit 2026, and we still got some of the same issues and concerns as it relates to our money, as it relates to our procurement processes, as it relates to our finances, that we should not be continuously dealing with. But unless we change the players, guess what? You keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same results. So we definitely have room for change. My mother used to say, if you see a problem, you have the answer, or at least part of it, and you need to work toward fixing it. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do, and why I'm running as your District 2 representative. Thank you.
Earl, you have a question?
Yeah, Connie, I have another question. Thank you, Tamiko. Last year I had the opportunity of attending an event in District 4. It was a food drive, and I was blown away by the amount of poverty and need that is occurring in the city of South Fulton. To the point where, I had a private conversation with an individual, and I said that we cannot keep doing this sort of like gimmicky stuff, like, okay, we'll do a turkey giveaway for Thanksgiving, but that doesn't really address the root problem, right, here in the city of South Fulton. So as a council member, once you become, the council person for District 2, what are some of your thoughts or solutions around addressing the poverty issue in the city of South Fulton?
Thank you for that question. And as you said, we have different needs in different parts of our city. And for far too long, we have acted as if we are 7 individual cities. One of the things that I plan to do is try to drive collaboration. I have done that with HOAs. I have done that in many other areas where I've built coalitions. For our city, I want to drive better collaboration in identifying the needs of each district and making that a priority for that district. All of us trying to do the same thing, all of us trying to get the same amount of money. You know, it's not about that. It's about serving the people and meeting them where they are. If the need for food insecurities is in District 6, then we need to look at what other services we can bring to District 6 to address that. We need to look at where the key issues are in each district, and that needs to become the priority for that district, and that needs to become the priority for City Council, making sure those things get addressed in those districts. Thank you.
Richard, do you have a question?
All right, so this question was sent to me directly. And this, do you feel that candidates are following the City of South Fulton political signage guidelines? And if not, what are your recommended remedies?
I do believe that the candidates are following the political signage guidelines to the best of their ability. Now, what I plan to do is change that guidance once I'm in office, because I think it's really hurting our city in terms of people being able to identify themselves as a candidate that's trying to help the city, right? So there should be a time frame in which these signs should be allowed within the parameters that they have expressed, you know, however many feet from the curb and all that kind of stuff, of course, but allow the signage to remain out there at least through the election process. And it doesn't have to be early on. You can make it something from October through November or whatever the case might be, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the time frame you determine is sufficient. But the bottom line is that people are trying to campaign, and we have all these houses we have to try to hit, all this door knocking, all of these extra efforts that take away from the real work is unnecessary. And then when you get a email from a code enforcement officer that's telling you to move a sign in 24 hours, you know, I think that's ridiculous, and it's not a good use of our resources as it relates to code enforcement. We just heard earlier about, you know, beautification and how poorly our city looks in certain places, and code enforcement really needs to be working in so many other areas. But to have them addressing signage because it's easier, because they can sit in their car and drive by and say, oh yeah, that sign looks like it's too far away. I mean, it's not far enough away. Let me send them an email because I know who the person is because they name on the sign. You know, I just really think that we can do better, and we should do better, and leave the candidates alone. Thank you.
Thank you for
All
that
right.
response.
Ron, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Hello, Connie.
Hi, Ron.
As you know, the news media is planning on doing a series against HOAs in the area.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, since you lead such a large HOA group with the local HOA presidents, I was wondering what your plans are in that regard, and even more so when you become councilwoman of District 2.
Thank you for that question. So actually, in that regard, I'm already working with Senator James with the Urban Affairs Committee, and Senator Brass with the subcommittee on rules, and we're looking at HOA reform. And so there are some things in the works. They're trying to get a jump start on it. You know, the legislative session doesn't start until January, but they want to have their game plan in place by the time the session starts. And so we're already working to try to bring some things to fruition, and hopefully we will be successful with that. And so, I'm sorry, what else was the other part of your question?
Just how would you continue that when you become councilwoman?
And so as councilwoman, I definitely plan to open up some type of HOA focus, I want to say committee, because one thing I found is that our council makes decisions that impacts HOAs, but they don't invite HOAs to the table. And that is something that I plan to change. Whether it was the sanitation, we had HOAs that had sanitation built into their assessments, right? So when the council decided, oh no, every house got to pay their own HOA, but got to pay their own sanitation, then those communities had to look at how they were going to handle that differently, how they were going to, take out the trash assessments or whatever the case might have been. They had to look at how do they address that. Then when it comes to rentals, short-term rentals, council was making decisions about, who could have a short-term rental. Well, many of these people were in HOA communities where they had rental caps, right? So you couldn't just go ahead and get a short-term rental if you had a rental cap that had already been met in that community. And so these were things that I actually spoke up and talked to them about. And I said, hey, wait a minute, you all are causing HOA problems. So back to your question, yes, we will have an HOA committee that actually meets with our council when it comes to things that impact our HOA communities, because we have enough issues as it is just working with homeowners. I'm sure you all have heard many of the horror stories where homeowners claim, they are being mistreated by HOAs. And I'm not going to say they're not. In many instances, those stories are true. Those things are happening. But I also know too, that there are some things as homeowners residing in HOA communities, we can do differently to work better with many of our boards. But it comes with education, it comes with training, and it comes with trying to have a mindset to work together for the good. And so that's one of the things I do want to bring to City Council. And with this HOA legislation that briefly is about to change for the better, we can work together and continue to build our communities. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that and for all your answers tonight.
All right, so we have two last questions. Earl, you have a question?
Yep, I do have a question. Connie, thank you again for answering all the questions. My question is centered around, do you have a comprehensive plan to bring jobs to the city of South Fulton? Because that question is based upon the whole density. We're building up these new communities. We're building all of these apartments because we believe that young people want to live in a mixed use space. But at the same time, you have to think about how are they going to afford to live in these mixed use spaces if we don't have a comprehensive plan to attract businesses to come into the city of South Fulton, to help our communities, stay vibrant and grow. So what's your comprehensive plan around bringing jobs into the city of South Fulton?
So definitely there is a comprehensive plan in the works. I don't want to, give too much away, but you
can do 3 bullet points, just 3 quick bullet points with that.
But definitely location, because we are so close to, as they say, the busiest or the most engaging airport, and we do have a lot of industrial that's being built around us. We got the Amazon warehouses, we got Google, we got all of these other big entities. So we definitely want to bring the younger generation and have the type of housing that attracts them. We just have to work on it together. And so for me, I would like to work on it together with the community, because we also have to bring something fitting and characteristics of the community in which that type of housing would go. And so we have to work together with the young and the old and those that are already here and try to prepare the type of housing that would be attractive and affordable to the generation that we're trying to bring and those that we want to drive to our city. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. And with that answer.
I said 2. I
All
said
right,
we
got
had
it.
2 questions left. So that next one will be Ms.
You can ask me later.
Sarah Juanita.
Good afternoon, Connie. Thank you for this opportunity to meet you tonight.
Thank you.
My question, my concern was the signage again. Now, the signage that we have already is not being enforced. But my concern is more so with the signage in subdivisions. When you're talking about placing sign, most of the signage in subdivision are not allowed. So I know you said that you were on the committee. What is your aspect on the signage not being allowed inside subdivision, and how would you address that?
So I would address that as I would address any other violation. As you stated, many communities have the no solicitation, have different rules as it relates to signage and things of that nature. And the homeowners have to respect that, right? Those are the rules they agreed to abide by when they moved into that community. So, I mean, like even with me, I'm in the HOA community. People are asking, you're running, why don't you have a sign at your house? Because our community says no solicitation. We have rules around signage, and I don't want to break the rules. So I think that we have to respect the rules and we have to live by them. So that's how I feel about signage in HOA communities. If your community say you should not have signage, then you shouldn't have signage. And then if you get a courtesy notice saying that you need to remove your signage, then you should comply. That's how I feel about that.
Okay, one final question from me. We have several people from the mayor and all the districts running for office. What do you say in regards to should they or should they not be attending council meetings?
I'm not sure I follow your question. Should they or should they not be attending council meetings?
So all of the candidates across the board do not all attend council meetings.
Okay.
What's your thoughts on that?
The candidates not
Mhm.
attending, well, you know what? The only way to stay in the know is to stay involved. So I think you should attend, but I don't feel like you should attend just because you're running for a seat, right? Because that's the problem. I think a lot of people jumped in and they're running out to all these meetings and everything now because they're running for office and they're trying to catch up and find out what's happening. But I feel like if you want to be involved and know what's happening, then you should show up at these meetings, or you should at least tune into them so that you can know what's happening. So I realize everybody has different schedules and, based on when the meetings are happening and when their work schedules are and family time and, this, that, and the other, they may not be able to make every meeting, but I think they should make some appearances so they can try to get to know the people can get to know them, because after all, we have to vote on who we want to be in office next. So we need to know you.
Now, I will disclose that that is a personal pet peeve of my own. If they don't have the time and ability to make council meetings or other meetings, how will they make them once they're in office? Is a personal question of mine. That's why I asked that. Rashard, you have a final question?
No, I was just gonna help us wrap up, but I'll let you wrap it up.
All right. So that being said, do you have any closing comments that we've not addressed tonight that you want to make sure you say, or anything, or anyone who wants to ask you any additional questions outside of this?
So I was gonna, if you don't mind, just piggyback off of what you just said about the timing. I agree. This is definitely a commitment and you have to have the time. I understand some people are saying, they're retiring later or whatever, so they may have more availability later than what they have now. But as for me, I was already involved. I was always involved I retired in 2018. So we had just become a city. So I'm just saying that my interest was there, my attention was there, my time was there. So I didn't just show up because I decided to run. I've been here and I've been trying to make my presence known on behalf of community on the things that I saw or that I see are not working in our best interest. I tried to be vocal about that, and I will continue to be vocal about that because I am passionate about serving, and I am passionate about our city and the people that reside here. So in my closing, if there are no other questions, I would just like to say, I have stood up, I have stepped up, and I have spoken up, and I will continue to do so. Feel free to reach out to me, have a conversation, ask me questions. I want to work for you. I've been working for you. If you didn't know that, you know it now because I'm letting you know that again, this, you know how sometimes like everybody is created with purpose. And I truly believe that as I look back over my life and the path, my career journey, my civilian journey, and the different things that I have been involved in, they have led me here to this day to run for this seat. And I plan on not just speaking up for you all at the podium, but sitting at the table and sharing your voice at the table on behalf of the people. So vote for me, Connie, for District 2. I look forward to working for you even more soon. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you for your time, attention, and willingness to allow me to be your interview. On behalf of the South Fulton Coalition, I appreciate you, and that will be it for this evening. I turn it back to you, Richard.
All right, thank you so much. So thank you everyone for staying with us until almost 9:30 p.m. We will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. with District 2 candidate Penny Lewis. So we will be with her tomorrow at 7 p.m. and look forward to hearing what she has to say and making the case of why she should be the next City Council representative for District 2 of the City of South Fulton. So thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you. I appreciate you all. Thank you. And I apologize for all the technical difficulties that I had tonight, but I'm glad I was able to get through to the end. So y'all have a good one.
All right, you too.
Bye.